So I was on a coaching call recently with one of our Momentum Mastermind members, and she's in the middle of a big transition. As many of you probably are that are listening to this, she decided that she wants to leave her brick and mortar practice and change her career to a move in telemedicine. And that will provide a lot of flexibility for her, different source of income. And honestly, when she laid it all out, it was a smart move for her. I mean, the reasons were solid. She had thought it through like a good physician would do. But here's the thing. The more we talked, the more I realized her hesitation around this wasn't really about the career decision. It was about money. Specifically, she didn't really know where she stood. I mean, she and her husband had been running separate bank accounts. Each person knew their own income. Neither one really had a clear picture of the whole household, what was coming in, what was going out, and what they actually needed her income to cover. And that fog or that lack of clarity was making a totally reasonable decision feel way scarier than it needed to be. And I see this all the time. I mean, someone comes to me with maybe what looks like a career question, and underneath it, it's a financial question that nobody has actually sat down to answer. So today I want to dig into this. How do you actually set up your finances as a couple? What are the different ways people handle it? How does it change when one person steps back from clinical work? And I'll share what my wife and I have done over 17, 18 years of marriage, including the stuff that didn't work. I'm going to go a little deeper today. And so let's get into it.
Welcome to the Passive Income MD podcast, where we talk about creating your ideal life through multiple streams of income. If you enjoy hearing about this stuff, make sure to hit subscribe. Now let's get on with the show.
Again, I'm Peter Kim. And before I jump in, I just want to give you a quick disclaimer. Everything I share today is what we do. My family does. It's not financial advice. It's not a recommendation for what you should do. Every household is different and every marriage or relationship is different. So take what's useful in this situation and leave what isn't. Okay, so let's talk about couples and money. I mean, the first thing I want to say is that there's no one right system. I mean, I've talked to enough couples at this point, and people handle this in basically three ways. Some do everything fully joint, like together. Like all income goes into one bank account, all expenses come out of it. Usually one person is the person that really manages the day-to-day, manages the finances, and it's pretty simple. I mean, it works really well when both people are completely aligned and communication is good. Now, some others do everything fully separate. Each person covers their share of household expenses, whatever that is, and keeps the rest in their own account. And that works, especially when both have income and want autonomy. The risk there, as the person in my mastermind discovered, is that you can end up with a visibility gap. Neither person really has the full picture. And then there's the hybrid method, where income comes into personal accounts, maybe a set amount from each account automatically transfers into a joint account for shared expenses. And then whatever's left in your personal account might be guilt-free spending, whatever it is. I mean, there are a few more moving parts in this scenario to manage, but you get more clarity on individual contributions. Now, none of these is wrong. The question is whether the system you're running actually gives both of you enough visibility to make decisions together. And that's a real test, not which account the money is in. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. And I think this is where a lot of physician couples don't have an honest enough conversation. Like, what happens when one person steps back? Maybe one person takes up more of the time and effort. Maybe somebody goes part-time. Maybe somebody goes per diem. Maybe somebody decides to stay home with the kids. And this is super common in physician households, especially when children arrive. That changes everything, right? One person may scale back clinically, and then suddenly that income gap between the two members of the couple is really visible on paper. But what doesn't show up on paper is everything else that, let's say, the person at home is doing. Childcare, school pickups, managing the house, being the one who's available when something breaks, or maybe you get a call from school that somebody needs to go in. Now, if you price that out at actual market rate, I mean, we're definitely talking at least in the range of 50 to 100,000, even more when you add it all up. Now, childcare alone in most major markets is, I don't know, 3 to 4,000 a month. And beyond the logistics, obviously there's the career optionality that person gave up. Whether that's temporary or permanently, that's something to think about. The way we think about it is this in our family. It's not my income and your income. It's like household capital. It's one big pool. One person is maybe deploying it as clinical earnings. The other is deploying it or earning it, I guess, more like as operational infrastructure, right? That holds everything else together. Like that person is the glue. And then once we began to see it that way, or once you see it that way, the conversation can change. It's not about like who earns more. It's about what the household needs and what each person is contributing to make it run. And practically, that might mean that the spouse who stepped back needs real visibility into financial decisions, not like a year-end summary, like an actual seat at the table. Not just because it's fair, though it is, but because when that visibility is missing, you get exactly what, again, the person that I talked to was dealing with. Big decisions that feel really impossible to evaluate because the full picture isn't there.
Hey everyone, I wanted to let you know that PIMD Con 2026 is coming up. And whether this is your first time hearing about it or you've joined us before, here's what you should know. This isn't just another physician conference. PIMD Con is the event for doctors who want to expand what's possible, not just in medicine, but in business, investing, and life outside the hospital. This is where physicians come together in person to build real leverage, to learn what's working, and to connect with people who are actively doing it, forming real connections that turn into partnerships as well as long-term opportunities. No fluff, no theory, just practical strategies and powerful conversations that continue long after the event ends. PIMD Con 2026 is happening September 24th through 26th in Dallas, Texas. If you want to get in the room with the right people and build what's next, join us in Dallas this September.
Okay, so let me tell you again in clear detail like what my wife and I actually do. We met in medical school, got married during residency, and back then it was easy because it was simple. We both weren't making that much money. We pretty much made the same amount of money. We were both pretty exhausted all the time, and we threw everything into one joint account and paid all our bills from it. Neither of us was particularly interested at that time in managing money at that point. I mean, necessarily who would be. We were just trying to survive. But someone had to handle it, and that ended up being me. Not because we had some huge conversation about it. We decided whose skills are better equipped for it. It just kind of sort of happened. And then we became attendings. And then, of course, that's where things got a little bit more complicated. I mean, I went into private practice as an anesthesiologist. She took more of like an institutional academic type position, and then eventually moved to part-time and per diem after we had kids. So our incomes really started to diverge pretty significantly. And for a while, we even had tried the hybrid approach. Like each of us had our personal accounts, income flowed in, and then a set amount auto transferred to the joint account where every month we would pay for shared expenses. And then whatever stayed in your personal account was yours to spend, like no questions asked. And in theory, that's a good system. But in practice, I'll be honest with you, we found it a little bit annoying to manage. It was just too much overhead for two people who were already pretty aligned on spending. I mean, neither of us is really extravagant. We weren't fighting about money. It just felt like extra work. So we went back to mostly a joint account. Clinical income comes in, household expenses and investments all come out of there. I mean, I happen to manage the day-to-day on that, and she's not really checking it every week, but we have talks about it, and she knows what's happening, and I keep her in the loop without making it feel like homework for her. And side income is something different too. We built some over the years. I actually encourage her to keep some of her side income in her own account and just spend it however she wants. Like, you don't have to justify anything. And it makes it feel fun and well earned, like it's extra money. And honestly, it means less money that's leaving the joint account for personal things anyways. But for big decisions, for anything that's really significant, we have an actual conversation about it. Again, we don't have to do this on PowerPoint presentations. We just have a conversation about it. And it helps both of us understand where we're going to be. And for investments, I kind of give her the broad overall picture, maybe not every single little detail, but just enough that she's not going to be surprised if anything changes. She trusts me when it comes to investments. And for me, that, I'm managing the money, I make sure it's within our means. And I think that is what's really important. I mean, surprise. Nobody wants that in their marriage or relationship, especially when it comes to finances. And that's what ultimately erodes trust in a marriage, especially when it comes to money. Like your spouse doesn't need to be a real estate analyst. They don't need to know every investment, but they need to know enough not to be blindsided. Now, one other thing I want to address, because I think people gloss over sometimes, again, every household has roles, and those roles tend to shift over time. And there are seasons where maybe one person is carrying more of the financial load, and other seasons where one person is carrying more of the household stuff, the logistical and emotional load with kids, home, and everything else. And again, those things don't necessarily show up really neatly on a spreadsheet, but they're real contributions. And I'll be honest, when I started doing the mental math on who's doing more, like it just never feels good as a couple. Now, that's why I don't go down that road. And I know it could get uncomfortable if we actually did that. So the framework that I heard is that you should consider, well, really just stop thinking of marriage as like 50-50. Like think of it as 80-20, where each person tries to give 80% and only expects 20% in return. And by being generous like that, that's closer to how I find it actually works in real life. Sometimes somebody's doing 80, sometimes somebody's doing 20, it changes, and things are almost never evenly split at any moment. It's impossible to track that. And so after 17 years of marriage, I can tell you what's made this work for us is not having any sort of particular account structure. It's that we really think of all of this as our money, not mine, not hers, just our money. And we happen to trust each other. We assume the other person is doing their best and we talk about it, even when those conversations are maybe a little uncomfortable. Now, we didn't get this right overnight, by the way. It took a lot of trial and error, some imperfect conversations, and maybe some uncomfortable ones to land where we are now. So let me get back to the physician I was coaching, and I told you about her. Once we actually mapped out the full household picture together, then everything shifted. We looked at what the household genuinely needed her income to cover, like fixed expenses, variable costs, like investments, like what was non-negotiable, what was flexible. And it turned out that the move out of the brick and mortar to telemedicine was not only fine financially, it actually made a lot of sense. But before, she couldn't see that through just the uncertainty of having two separate accounts, no shared picture. Again, she wasn't scared of the career change. She was scared, again, of not knowing. But once she did know, clarity is power. You've probably heard that before. Decision made a lot more sense. It became a lot clearer. And that's what financial clarity actually does. It doesn't necessarily make always the hard decisions easy, but it makes them possible where you don't feel stuck. You can weigh the trade-offs, the pros, the cons, when you can actually see them. So here's what I'd like to leave you with today. Before you make any big career or financial decision, make sure your household is aligned. Build the full household picture first. Again, not just your income, both incomes, the expenses, the commitments, what you actually need, what's you're flexible on, what's discretionary. I mean, it does probably take a few hours, but I think it's well worth the investment. Maybe it'll take a Saturday morning, whatever it is. Maybe it'll take a Saturday morning with your partner. But that investment of time will do so much more for your confidence than almost anything else. And if you're in the middle of a transition like this, whether it's a career pivot, maybe you're scaling back clinically or you want to, or you're just trying to get on the same page with your partner financially, this is exactly the kind of work we dig into inside our mastermind community and in our communities overall. Now, if you want to learn more about it, there's going to be some link in the show notes, but have the conversation. I promise you, it'll change everything for you. So anyways, thanks for being here today. I'll see you next week. Let's talk again soon. Bye, everyone.
Enjoy the show? Let me know by dropping a review in the podcast app you're listening to us in. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. Join thousands of physicians who are also on this journey to creating their ideal lives through multiple streams of income. Learn more at our website, passiveincomemd.com. Thanks again for allowing me to be a part of your journey. See you next time.